sometimes we talk about authenticity like it's something like we got to go out there and find, as if we are inauthentic, right? It's not that you're inauthentic. It's that your authenticity has been stifled, ladies. You have been told not to talk. You have been told not to give your opinion. You have been told your opinion doesn't matter. You have been talked over when you try to give your opinion, and you've learned to stay quiet. So one of the hardest things to do when you start to so-called find your authenticity again, figure out what your authenticity is, because it's been so long since you've been really able to speak your mind. And I'm talking for those ladies out there who know what I'm talking about. When you're in a room, right? Whether it's with family members, friends, whoever, and you're just quiet. You're not quiet just because you're listening. You're quiet because you know that nobody cares what you think. And part of authenticity is finding rooms to be in where people care what you think. If you're in a room where people are not listening to you, that's not your room. You don't belong there. That's not where you belong. But in order for people to care what you think, you have to be able to say what you think, say what you think, right? You have to be able to speak up. And sometimes that is really hard when you've been told for so long that your opinion doesn't matter, that what you have to say can wait because somebody else has something to say before you do. And so you never get to speak your mind, or that you never get to cultivate the opinion about anything, or somehow that if you have an opinion about something today, that has to be your opinion tomorrow. Listen, we all live, we all learn, and we all can change our minds. So guess what? You get to have one opinion today, and then you get to have another one tomorrow. Now, I'm not saying to go around flip-flopping and confusing people. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about good, honest change of opinion that comes with growth. Because I may have an opinion about, I may have a political view, let's say, about something that's going on based on what I think I know, based on what I've heard. And then I may hear something else from somewhere else that may grasp my attention and help me change my point of view. And then I can take that in and I can change my opinion, right? But if you are not consistently doing that and you're consistently going along with whatever everyone else thinks, then everyone else just assumes that you think what they think, or that you're supposed to go along with what they think, that their standards are your standards, that if they lead, you will follow because you can't lead yourself. And it's not true. It's just that you've not been allowed to speak. And so this is one of the hardest things. And so I just made another video where I talked about like starting a YouTube channel to find your voice, because that's what I did, to kind of, figure out what I wanted to say, how I want to say it. It's not always pretty. And here's the thing, it doesn't always have to be pretty. How many people do you hear say things all day long? Like you're around people all day long, right? Unless, of course, you've decided to become a hermit, which I know some of us have, but you see people eventually. How many people do you see that often are always giving their opinion about something, they're not scared to talk. They're just out there, boom, 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 stating their opinion, right? Are they always right? Do you always agree with them? No. Do you tell them you don't agree with them? I mean, it's not everyone that says something that you need to argue with, right? Some opinions, anyone can have an opinion about something. You don't always have to agree with them, and you don't always have to use your energy either to disagree with someone, because it just depends on what it is. If I don't live with you and you have an opinion about what detergent to use the floor, I don't need to argue with you and tell you that I think my detergent is better because this is what I use. Doesn't matter to me. I don't live in your house. I don't care what detergent you use. It's irrelevant. So this is not something that I feel I need to expend my energy to have an opinion on. And that's the other thing that happens. You learn when you need to have an opinion and when you don't, as you find your voice, because you also learn how to save your energy. You don't have to share your energy with everyone. You can be selective about who you share your energy with. But the first things first is finding that voice, getting that voice out, starting to speak, letting people know when you are talking that it's not appropriate for them to talk over you. People used to do this to me all the time. I would be talking and then someone would come in and just like, as if I'm not talking, and then talk over me. So I had to tell them. Now, if someone continues to do that, right? Someone continues to talk over me, I will no longer have conversations with you. I can make an active decision. I can actively decide based on your approach that you're talking over me all the time, that you don't care to listen to me. Then I can find a different place to put myself, a different room to put myself, where people are willing to listen to me and reciprocate opinions with me and conversation with me. It's a matter of not putting yourself in rooms where you're not allowed to talk, where you feel like you're not allowed to talk. It's right, because there's a sense of feeling that comes with that, right? If every time you walk into a room and someone's talking over you, and this can happen at work. This has happened at work to me, actually. And I don't know what it is. I think it's a sense that people have a sense of when you are timid, and especially as a woman, because they know women, it happens a lot to women, that we're taught to be more quiet, to be a good girl, not to talk back. And so especially if you're at work and a man comes in, right? A male manager or somebody, even a male coworker comes in, and that male coworker talks to you, you may tend to back down, because that male coworker represents something to you. It represents maybe something that you've seen at home, right? Where you've been told not to talk, where you've been told not to speak your mind. So it's really important that as you start to find your voice, that you start to articulate at work, in meetings, right? Excuse me. I wasn't finished with what I was saying. And also there's a fine line, right? When you start doing this, because you may be the one that's dominating the conversation. Now, I have been told before that especially now, because I have found my voice, that I can tend to dominate conversation. So I have to pull back. So you will find that fine line, because you will find when you're dominating the conversation, or when you're talking and you're not giving anyone else a chance to talk, right? That's not a good thing either, because something that happens, yes. Something that happens when you have had your voice stifled is exactly that. You have, I called it diarrhea of the mouth, right? Like, you want to talk, but what are you talking about? Are you telling people everything about your whole life? Are you really having an opinion about something? What is the conversation? Are you telling too much about yourself? Because, and you can watch my other video, because that's when people use things about you. That's when people can use that information against you, because that's also seen as a weakness. So there's really finding a balance when you find your voice. And I just found, honestly, and I'm going to say this again, I just found YouTube was a great place, because I wasn't talking to anyone. I had sometimes to be mindful about what I say, right? Because I have to decide how much of me do I want to be public, because this is a public forum. And how much of me am I willing to put public? How much of me am I going to allow the public to criticize? Because once you put yourself in public, you open yourself to criticism. I remember when I first started, it was like my first month on YouTube, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And the first comment that I got from somebody was that I talk too much. And I was like, I can't believe it. Like, how can somebody, I haven't even had this channel for like 2 minutes and somebody's on here telling me I talk too much, so, and so you have to decide what is constructive criticism. How much are you willing to take? I mean, I was on YouTube talking, so I have to I had to take it, right? Like, I don't have to like it, but at the same time, I have to decide, is this valid criticism? How lengthy was I talking? I mean, my videos sometimes will go on for an hour and a half, like way too long, right? So yeah, it's a lot of talking, a lot of rambling, probably what I'm doing now. And that's where your editing comes into play, your creativity, your skills. You learn other things. So I learned how to cut what I'm saying. I still get on, I still videotape myself, I still ramble, right? Because I'm still me. I cannot come on and make a video and just be like, you will see videos where I tried and it's very, very choppy. But when I can come on and I can just be myself and I can ramble, but then I can cut out parts that I feel like are unnecessary, then that's great. So then I learned a new skill. But anyway, I digress again. But we're going to go back. So I think what I want you to know is that this is probably going to be the most important thing that you can do. Find a way to find a voice for yourself. And it doesn't have to be on YouTube. Like I said, I mentioned in another video, it can be a blog, but this is one of the hardest things, and you can do that, right? And then you're going to have to start telling people, because you're going to need to see, when I started telling people, it was because I wanted to see, are they doing this on purpose? What is it? And then I had to go back and dissect. What is it about me? Am I doing something that's causing them to speak over me? Or is it just really that they're not interested in what I'm saying? And you will find that you will start to cut out conversation with these people instead of being like at a loss. Like, I'm not at a loss. How can I be at a loss if you keep cutting me off and it's like I was never speaking? Then you were never interested. And so you are not somebody this is not you, of course, not you, but that's not somebody that person is not somebody that I am going to have long conversations with. I'm going to keep it short. It's going to be like, hey, whatever, keep it moving, right? And then that's how you start to find your tribe. You start to find the people who are for you, and you stop expending your energy on people who don't really care what you have to say. They are allowed not to care what you have to say. They are allowed to not care what I have to say. They are allowed to not care what you have to say, right? Not everybody has to like you. Not everybody has to like your conversation. Not everybody has to like your style, right? But do you recognize when people don't like you? Do you recognize when people don't like your style? Or do you keep trying to make them like you, right? Or do people respect you? Do they respect that conversation? Are they willing to listen because they like you and maybe give an opinion? Can you have a reciprocal conversation where it's not a competition, right? These are all things that you need to figure out as you step into your authenticity. And they are things that it's like you have to learn all over again, especially if you've had your voice stifled, and for many of us women, this happens from when we're kids. That's why we go into jobs and we're stressed out, right? We're trying to compete with men where we don't feel we have a voice. How do you go into a job and compete with a man that you're working with for a position when you don't feel you have a voice, right? I mean, forget about whether the job is stressful or if you really want it, but just having a voice is the first thing you need to do, because you're going to have to communicate with that person, and you're going to have to communicate with that person, and you're going to have to demand that person communicate with you respectfully. How are you going to do that if you don't have a voice, right? If you can't even have the people that are around you every day, right? Family members, friends, whatever, right? If you can't have those people communicate respectfully with you, how are you going to go out in the world and have someone that's a stranger that you work with communicate with you respectfully? It's going to be really, it gets really hard. It gets really choppy. It can get kind of ugly because you have to get to the point where you're not demanding the respect. You have to get to the point where you are demanding the respect, but you're not forcefully demanding the respect. It's just your aura and your position and the way you speak and the way you exert yourself and the way you show up demands respect. And you can tell someone that you feel disrespected without being in your feelings. Now that's the hardest part, because a lot of times that's another hard part, because we get in our feelings, right? When we don't feel people like us, like we get all emotional, right? They're always telling us women, we're all emotional. We're too emotional. And I don't believe anyone's too emotional. Your emotions are real, but what we need as women who are stepping into our authenticity is we need to have emotional intelligence, which means that we need to know who to share our emotions with and who is worthy of that emotion. And see, my coworker, I don't have to be emotional with. We are on a job. It is implied that there should be mutual respect. And when there's not, we need to have a conversation about it. And that's it. Even with your spouse, right? Like if something happens that's disrespectful, you don't want to break down in tears, because you don't always want to break down in tears. I mean, if you need to cry, I'm not saying don't cry, because we're not trying to be like they tell men to be like, oh, don't cry. No, if you need to cry about something, you step away, you go have your cry, but then you come back emotionally balanced so that you can articulate exactly what it is that you need from that person so that you feel respected. Because that's what it's about, right? You can't have love without respect. Not even in a relationship. There's no love without respect. And so there's no relationship wherever it is. If the person's not being respectful towards you, then it's not a healthy relationship. You need respect to have a healthy relationship. And part of the healthy relationship is respecting your voice and you respecting their voice and their opinion. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but we have to be respectful. All right. Well, thank you for joining me again for another episode. And I am so glad you're here. Don't forget to sign up for my email list. I'm going to be sending out a newsletter every month. I won't spam you, but when you sign up, I have a free guide for you, a few boric acid wellness guide for my ladies out there where, we're over 40 and no one talked to us about female body odor when our hormone levels change. My gynecologist didn't even talk to me about it. I was like, whoa, what's that? And then I started seeing other women talking about it. And I was like, you know what? We need to have this conversation. And if nobody talked to you about it, I'm going to talk to you about it. So check it out. Get your free guide. Let me know what you think about it when you do get it. Everything you need to know is in that guide in the boric acid wellness guide that will be sent to your inbox as soon as you sign up for my newsletter. And I will be sharing a little bit more intimate information about me, personal information about me that may be helpful to you on your journey that I don't share here on YouTube, because like I said, I don't want to put everything out here, but for my subscribers, I can share a little bit more personal information. So I thank you for joining me. Hit that subscribe button and I will see you in the next one. And don't forget to drop a comment, drop a heart if you resonated with this message. See you in the next one.